Alright guys, today we're back with day 2 of Answer Record Week 3. Today we're going to look at a really seriously old school one. Not the oldest, I guess that would be like Sylvia Robinson, or maybe Rapper's Defeat, something like that from 79, 80. But this is pretty close, really pretty old school. 1983 we're talking about Sweet G on the Fever Records, Games People Play. Of course, this is the original record, not the Answer record. Sweet G is pretty established, although he didn't have that many records. This is kind of his biggest record, this or the Heartbeat Rap, which is rapping to the same groove that the Treasures 3 did on their Heartbeat Rap. But he had a couple others as well. He had Boogie Feelin' Rap and later one, more of a love song, I guess, kind of later on. So he had a couple records out. Fever Records is the actual, associated with the original famous club in New York, the Fever, or the Disco Fever. And Sweet G regularly played there. I don't think he was quite a DJ, but he did something there. And the label's roster was mostly made up, at least in the early days, of acts that performed at the Fever. So you had guys like Lovebug Starski, MC Chill. They actually did a lot of non-hip-hop as well. But for hip-hop, these were kind of the big names. And Sweet G was actually one of their bigger records. A couple of bigger things about Sweet G is, A, he's actually a really good rapper. Sometimes you got a lot of old school guys who are just sort of jumping onto the bandwagon in the early 80s, like when everybody started putting out records. But no, Sweet G was actually pretty credible. And also, he's a pretty good singer, and you hear him sing on the hook. In fact, well before guys like Domino or whoever else, he was kind of one of the big original singing rapper MC guys kind of thing. So he rapped and sang. I mean, of course, if you go all the way back, you had groups like Cold Crush and Fantastic Five and all, who used to do all the kind of harmonizing stuff. But this went a little bit more beyond that. If you look at the credits here, you'll notice a couple interesting names, including an interesting nod to yesterday's post. Curtis Blow produced this. Curtis Blow, of course, was a pretty big producer, who I said last time did guys like the Fat Boys, and Sweet G is another one, pretty major act. And you'll notice another name in the credits there, David, that's Davey DMX again. And another name in there is actually the guy who kind of owned, or at least managed, the Fever Club and the Fever Records. This is a very early use of a classic Isaac Hayes sample that everybody has used throughout the years. Everybody from Melly Mel to Tragedy. Those are at least a couple of my favorites, but everybody's used it. You'll see it on a ton of records, but this is one of the first, if not the first. It's called Games People Play, and it's actually a pretty interesting, complex kind of song, too, because it's talking about games people play, sort of with themselves to get by in life. I mean, sometimes there's references to gambling and stuff like that, but that's just a little, maybe an overtly nod to it. But it's more just about kind of the way people fool themselves and fool each other to kind of get through life. It's an interesting kind of conceptual song. It's just the one song on here, like all the Fever records. They're basically single song, no picture cover, plain generic sleeve, just instrumental on the back. That's about it. It's pretty straightforward. Often these records can be found pretty cheap because I guess they did produce a lot of them, but there is a lot of good stuff. Certainly Lovebug Starski, Positive Life, stuff like that. So let's listen to it real quick now, and then we're going to come back for, of course, the Answer record.
Give me a shooter for the dive.
Alright, we're back, and it might look like I'm holding the same record in my hand, but actually I'm not. It's just another record on the Fever Records 1983 again. This is The Response Now by Gigolette, and the song is called Games Females Play. Again, like I said in the last one, it's a very common version to just have a female rapper do an inverse of the male rapper song, and that's what this is. Interesting, also again produced by Curtis Blow and Davey DMX. This is a total in-house, this is not somebody who heard the record and said, I'm mad, I gotta respond. This is a very, set up kind of stage thing. It's just a straightforward answer record sent to Capitalize because Sweet G's hit, I think, kind of surprised them. It was pretty big for Sweet G, so they wanted to say, okay, let's do another one. This one obviously wasn't such a big hit, but, it did all right, and actually Gigolette came out with another record a couple years later. This is unquestionably an answer record. The instrumental is pretty much exactly the same. It's not 100% the same only because it's actually, again, this is the very early disco-era hip-hop stuff, so they weren't sampling. They would have live musicians actually play it. So they're playing the same music, but they are actually different instrumental recordings. And Gigolette, she sings the hook, and she sings one just very much like Games People Play, except switching people for females. And she raps about, basically, it's a little bit less complex. It's a little bit more just kind of straightforward, how girls play guys and trick guys and in relationships and that kind of thing. And so it's fun. It's kind of interesting. But it's definitely not as compelling a song as the original. And also, Gigolette, frankly, isn't quite as good a singer as Sweet G, or as good a rapper. Still, what makes Answer Records is the novelty of it being an answer record, and this certainly has that in spades. This really feels like an answer record. It really feels like, hey, the tables are being turned, it's the female's turn, and especially, again, going back to 1983, this is before a lot of them, and before this was really such a formulaic, predictable kind of move to have the female respond to the male record and all that. In 1983, this was more of a surprise. So it's definitely pretty cool, pretty fun for that. And it's not a bad record. Like I said, she's not as good as Sweet G, but she's certainly a pretty capable MC, and she sings the hook pretty well, and the instrumental is pretty great. And again, the instrumental is the only B-side on the record. It's just the one song in the instrumental. So let's listen to this, Games Females Play, and that'll be it until day 3 of Answer Record Week 3. See you guys then.
Games Females Play. Games Females Play.